We talked about this a little bit yesterday on the show in terms of the fiduciary duty. And I know Dan had a good couple good comments and laughs at that, calling me a qualified accountant. But it's the truth. And this is a tweet from Marty Bent yesterday, one of our favorite Bitcoiners. Marty Bent says, the career risk around Bitcoin is only increasing as the days pass. If you are a fiduciary and you don't have the exposure to Bitcoin, you're going to have some tough questions to answer. Why did we miss Bitcoin? What am I paying you for? So maybe let's kick that off today with what I want to talk about. So the drip flood. Let me get this opened up. This was the blog today that I wrote. And if you're not a subscriber over there yet, I think you're missing out. It's a very short blog that I do every morning. I started doing it about 3 weeks ago before the show. It's on Substack. You can get the link. It's free. It's just kind of an addition to this. Sometimes I talk about the blog than in the show. Sometimes they're unrelated, but you can find the link in the show notes. It's a Substack. I think it's bitcoinjourney.substack.com or something like that. But I write a blog there every morning. And it's actually been getting a bit of traction over there. A little bit. It took a while, but I guess that's what consistency does. But with the drip flood, I think that there's a lot of people out there right now who are expecting that Bitcoin's going to go into the millions. And I would be one of those people. There's also a lot of people who think that that's going to take 50 years to happen. And I'm not one of those people. I think that the way exponential growth works, we're going to illustrate it here in just a sec, but I think it's going to happen much faster than we think. So I'm going to give the analogy here that I saw yesterday, and then I'm going to talk about the 3 triggers that I believe will take it from where we are today, 93 to 93 million. So here's the analogy that I saw yesterday. Let's use an example of a football stadium being filled with water. So every minute, 1 drop gets added, and the number of drops double every minute. So it goes from 1 drop to 2 drops to 4 to 8 to 16, 32, 64, etc. How long do you think it would take to fill the entire stadium with water? A day? A week? A year? How about 50 minutes? 50 minutes. And the crazy part, how full do you think it would be after 45 minutes? Most would guess 70%, 80%, 90% would make sense mathematically. But that's wrong. After 45 minutes, the stadium is only 7% full. 7%. So in the final 5 minutes, the stadium goes from 7% full to 100% full. So I think that that's what we're going to happen here. I think that's what we're going to see happen here in Bitcoin, where it takes a while to get to, a decent amount, a foundation, 7%, but then it only takes 5 minutes for the other 93% to happen. So we've heard things like gradually, then suddenly. It's the same kind of thing. Drip, flood. And I think that's what's going to happen in Bitcoin very soon. And I think these are my 3 triggers that I have that will take the price from 93,000 to 93 million. And those are just numbers. I'm just saying it's going to happen fast. That's my point. I'm not saying it's going to be 93 million anytime soon, but it's going to happen fast. So these are the 3 triggers that I have. Number 1, Wall Street, the big money, the institutional money can participate. Number 2, a major country starts buying Bitcoin as a strategic reserve. And number 3, the price hits 1 million. Price of Bitcoin, 1 Bitcoin is $1 million. So we know that one has already happened. One happened in January 2024. That's when the ETFs were launched. That's when Wall Street, that's when the biggest capital in the world was able to buy Bitcoin. And we've seen what's happened since then with the volume, with the price, with the demand for Bitcoin. So pretty much right now, as it stands today, for the most part, and you also have to consider the fact that there's still a lot of big money that still can't get into Bitcoin. Can't. They're not allowed to. But for the most part, most people can buy Bitcoin. Not everybody's going to hold it themselves, obviously, especially bigger companies with shareholders and responsibility there. But I think that anybody who wants to buy Bitcoin right now has the ability to, whether that's through Bitcoin, through a Bitcoin ETF, through MicroStrategy, through Semler, through Metaplanet. If you want Bitcoin today, you can probably find some or some exposure to it. So that's already happened. Number one has already happened. That is Wall Street can participate. Number two is a major country starts buying Bitcoin as their strategic reserve. And I know that there's a lot of people who are like questioning this. Like I've seen the odds is like 50-50 that Trump's administration actually goes ahead with this. But I would put it closer to like, honestly, 99%. And the reason I said is because we've seen Cynthia Lummis. She's a senator. She's introduced the bill, which could take a while to actually be approved and put into. And her thing is she wants to buy 1 million Bitcoin over 5 years, I think. So that's one route. But the other route there is that I've also heard that Trump's going to do it as an executive order early on in his presidency. And I think that I would lean towards that one because Trump's a business guy. Trump knows the markets. Trump knows how things work. And they've already announced that they're going to be doing it. It's definitely not priced into the 93,000 right now because people are still unsure if it's going to happen or not. But if you look at, they've already announced it. So they're already allowing people, companies, and other countries to front run them before they do that. So I don't think Trump's going to risk waiting 6 months for the bill to go through the normal process. I think he's going to do it very early on. So when that happens, when the US starts buying Bitcoin, they're going to be mining Bitcoin. They're going to be doing a lot of different things in Bitcoin. But when they start going through with their plan to buy 1 million Bitcoin, that's when every country's going to get every country's attention because they're going to see that the US is moving forward with this. They believe it's going to be the next world reserve currency. And then every country on earth with a brain, hopefully Canada is in there. I know our country doesn't have much of a brain right now, but every country is going to be doing that. And there's only so much Bitcoin. That's the thing. That's the key here to both those 2 points, first 2 points, is that we've never had an asset like this before. A scarce asset with a fixed supply. There could be as much demand as we want. There could be more demand than anything before, but that won't change the supply. So I want to say that again. We've never had an asset like Bitcoin before, a scarce asset with a fixed supply. So that's why something like this could happen. And the third one I had was the price, when the price hits 1 million. And I know we've talked about like $100,000 Bitcoin being like the key to retail getting in. But when the price hits $1 million, that means that 1 sat is equal to 1 cent. And I think that at that point, that's going to be like the line that we cross where we don't know what the price of Bitcoin is anymore because everything's going to be priced in sats. So it's going to go from 1 cent per sat to 2 cents per sat. And it's going to look like a penny stock going from 2 cents to 5 cents per sat. Meanwhile, 1 Bitcoin is jumping up like hundreds of thousands of dollars every time that moves 1 sat or 1 cent higher. So that's when it's going to happen. That's why I think that 1 million, the point at 1 million is so important because when we don't even know what the price of Bitcoin is anymore and people are valuing it in sats, that's when it's going to look like a penny stock where it's moving from 1 cent to 5 cents to 10 cents or an altcoin. But meanwhile, behind the scenes, those who are in Bitcoin right now know how much that's jumping up the price of Bitcoin. And that's when it goes from, let's say 10 cents per sat I think, is 10 million per Bitcoin. And then $1 per sat is 100 million per Bitcoin. And then you go to $2 per sat. That's how this thing is going to move, because there's only so much of it. And the whole world, every person, every country, every company, every AI, every robot is going to be wanting Bitcoin. So there's the flood. There's the flood. It's wild. It's wild when you think about it that way.